Let me talk to you.
A lot is happening at Newcastle United. So from discussing the truth behind Newcastle submitting a bid, to revealing the secret details regarding the potential Gordon swap deal, to the sporting director traveling and engaging heated transfer talks, to an exciting potential new winger. We'll also discuss the exciting update regarding Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali's futures. Plus, is Newcastle United in trouble with UEFA after breaching rules? As per, join us as we'll break it all down and discuss the latest Newcastle United transfer news.
Let's go.
So starting off, Newcastle United have reportedly rejected suggestions that Bayern Munich could include goalkeeper Alexander Nubel in a deal for Anthony Gordon, as the ongoing transfer saga continues to gather momentum. Bayern remain heavily interested in signing Gordon this summer, but negotiations are proving difficult due to a significant gap in valuation between the two clubs. Newcastle are believed to want more than £75 million for the England international, while Bayern's current valuation reportedly falls around £15 million short of that figure. As discussions continue, reports from Germany recently claimed Bayern were considering offering Alexander Nubel as part of a potential package to lower the cash fee required. The 29-year-old goalkeeper joined Bayern Munich in 2020 and was once viewed as the long-term successor to Manuel Neuer. However, with Neuer recently extending his stay and still firmly established as number one, Nubel's future in Munich appears uncertain. Since arriving at Bayern, the German international has spent several seasons away on loan, including a productive spell at Stuttgart, where he kept 14 clean sheets this season. German outlet Bild suggested Bayern hoped Newcastle might be interested in taking Nubel as part of negotiations for Gordon. However, those claims have now been strongly downplayed, despite also reporting the same claim initially. In an update from Lee Ryder, Newcastle have dismissed the idea entirely and are not interested in accepting the goalkeeper in any kind of swap arrangement. That stance makes sense given Newcastle's recent experiences in the transfer market. The club are still trying to resolve the future of Odysseas Vlachodimos, who has struggled to establish himself since arriving, while the departure of Elliot Anderson continues to look increasingly painful after his strong performances for Nottingham Forest. Newcastle appear determined not to repeat mistakes involving unwanted additions being included to facilitate larger deals. At the same time, Gordon's future is becoming more complicated by the day, as interest continues to grow across Europe. Bayern Munich remain serious contenders, but Barcelona are also pushing hard behind the scenes. Transfer expert Fabrizio Romano claims Barcelona sporting director Deco recently held talks with Gordon's representatives during a visit to England, with the Catalan club viewing the winger as a key attacking target. He has also confirmed Gordon is open to the possibility of joining Barcelona, although Bayern and several Premier League clubs remain firmly in the race. After Mohamed Salah's exit, Liverpool have additionally been linked, with Gordon reportedly viewed as one of several potential long-term attacking options at Anfield alongside players such as Yan Diomande and Bradley Barcola. Despite the growing speculation, Newcastle's position remains relatively strong for now. Gordon is under a long-term contract and there appears to be no shortage of clubs willing to pursue him, meaning Newcastle are under little pressure to lower their demands quickly. In fact, the growing number of interested sides could ultimately work in Newcastle's favour by creating a bidding war for one of their most valuable attacking assets. For now, though, one thing seems clear. Newcastle have no interest in softening Bayern's offer by taking an unwanted goalkeeper in return. Then, Newcastle United's hunt for a potential Anthony Gordon replacement has reportedly led them to Manchester City winger Savinho, with Tottenham Hotspur also pushing hard to sign the Brazilian this summer. With Gordon increasingly expected to leave St James's Park, Eddie Howe and Newcastle's recruitment team are already assessing options capable of filling a huge void on the left side of attack. Replacing Gordon will not be straightforward. Despite the growing tension surrounding his future, the England international has been one of Newcastle's most important attacking players over the last 2 seasons, thanks to his intensity, pace, and relentless pressing. Harvey Barnes remains an in-house option, but uncertainty also surrounds his future amid reported interest from Aston Villa. As a result, Newcastle appear determined to strengthen the left-wing position regardless of whether Barnes stays or leaves. According to Fabrizio Romano, Manchester City's Savinho has now emerged as one of the latest names under consideration. The 22-year-old winger reportedly wants more regular first-team football after struggling for consistent minutes at the Etihad Stadium, despite signing a new contract until 2031. Romano revealed that Tottenham attempted to sign Savinho twice last summer before Manchester City ultimately decided against selling him. At the time, City were exploring a possible move for Real Madrid star Rodrigo, which would have opened the door for Savinho's exit. However, once that deal collapsed, Pep Guardiola's side chose to keep the Brazilian. Now, Tottenham are ready to reignite their pursuit. Speaking on his YouTube channel, Romano explained, "Keep an eye again on Tottenham and Savinho. Tottenham last summer wanted to go all in for Savinho, sent 2 official bids to Manchester City, but Man City decided not to proceed. It's a story from August 2025. City were considering going for Rodrigo from Real Madrid and let Savinho go to Tottenham. Then the Rodrigo deal was not possible, and also City decided to trust Savinho, and so they offered him a new contract. But this season for Savinho at Man City has not been easy. He wants to play on a regular basis, and now Tottenham are prepared to go for it. Roberto De Zerbi and people at Tottenham want Savinho, so now they are prepared to reopen negotiations with Manchester City. Savinho is also appreciated, from what I understand, by Newcastle. So it's another club appreciating the player, but now Tottenham are prepared to open talks again with Manchester City. Tottenham may currently hold an advantage given their long-standing interest and previous negotiations with the player, but Newcastle are far from out of the race. Savinho fits the profile Newcastle have increasingly targeted in recent windows. Young, explosive, technically gifted, and already experienced at the highest level. The Brazilian's pace, dribbling ability, and unpredictability in 1-versus-1 situations make him a natural fit for Howe's aggressive, transition-based style of football. At his best, he is capable of stretching defenses, driving directly at defenders, and creating chaos in wide areas, qualities Newcastle could badly need if Gordon departs. There are, however, potential obstacles. Savinho is reportedly valued at around £60 million, which would represent a major investment even if Newcastle receive a huge fee for Gordon. Competition from Tottenham could also complicate matters significantly, especially if the player still favours the move to North London after nearly joining last year. That said, circumstances have changed. Tottenham endured a turbulent season themselves, while Newcastle can still offer a strong long-term project under Eddie Howe, despite missing out on Europe. From Newcastle's perspective, Savinho feels like one of the more realistic elite-level winger targets currently available on the market. Manchester City appear open to listening to offers, the player wants more minutes, and Newcastle are actively searching for attacking reinforcements. Whether that ultimately results in a formal move remains to be seen, but this is certainly a transfer story worth watching closely over the coming weeks. Then, in an exciting development, Newcastle United supporters have been handed a major boost after transfer journalist Ben Jacobs played down rumours linking Chelsea with moves for Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali. Chelsea are expected to oversee another significant rebuild this summer following a hugely disappointing campaign that saw them finish 10th in the Premier League and miss out on European football entirely. New manager Xabi Alonso is reportedly set to play a more active role in recruitment decisions, while co-owner Berdad Egbali has already hinted that the club's transfer strategy could shift slightly after several inconsistent windows. The London side are believed to be prioritising signings at centre-back, in midfield and across the forward line, with reports suggesting they may now focus more heavily on players with proven Premier League experience. That led to speculation surrounding several established names, including Newcastle duo Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali, amid uncertainty around Enzo Fernandez's future. However, Jacobs has now firmly rejected those claims. Posting on X, the journalist stated, "Also understand links between Chelsea and Newcastle pair Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes are wide of the mark." That update will come as welcome news for Newcastle supporters, particularly given how important both midfielders remain to Eddie Howe's long-term plans. Bruno Guimaraes, especially, has become one of the faces of the project at St James's Park. Despite Newcastle's difficult season, the Brazilian once again established himself as the team's standout performer, finishing as the club's leading scorer and creator in league football, while captaining the side with visible passion and intensity. Tonali, meanwhile, endured a disrupted first season in England, but has now showed the world-class quality Newcastle invested heavily in when signing him from AC Milan. The Italian remains highly regarded internally, and is expected to play a huge role next season as Howe attempts to rebuild a more balanced and competitive midfield. Given Newcastle's growing financial pressures and UEFA scrutiny, there will naturally continue to be speculation around high-value players throughout the summer. However, losing either Guimarães or Tonali would represent a far more damaging blow than the potential departure of players such as Anthony Gordon or Joe Willock. Both midfielders are viewed internally as foundational pieces for the club's future. For now at least, Chelsea do not appear to be genuine contenders for either player, something Newcastle fans will undoubtedly be relieved to hear. Then, in terms of incomings, Newcastle United have reportedly stepped up their summer recruitment plans by submitting an opening bid for highly rated Gremio defender Vieri. With the season now over, Newcastle's focus has shifted fully toward what is expected to be one of the club's busiest transfer windows in recent years. Eddie Howe's squad requires strengthening in several areas, particularly in defence, where age and depth remain ongoing concerns. Newcastle are also preparing for the possibility of further departures, meaning Ross Wilson and the recruitment team are now beginning to turn long-standing scouting missions into concrete transfer moves. According to Brazilian journalist and Gremio insider Fabio Vargas, Newcastle have officially submitted a proposal for the 21-year-old Gremio defender after monitoring him closely throughout the season. Vieri only recently broke into Gremio's first team, but has already attracted strong attention thanks to his composure, versatility, and physical profile. Vargas claims Newcastle's opening offer is worth around €12 million or £10.3 million, although that figure currently falls well below Gremio's valuation. Speaking via X, Vargas reported, "Newcastle of England has officially expressed interest in Vieri. The league giant had made an inquiry and now has an official offer. The offer is in the region of €12 million. Gremio is asking between 20 and €25 million to negotiate the defender. While Vieri reportedly has a release clause worth around £43 million, Gremio are believed to be willing to negotiate at a much lower figure between £17 to £21 million. Newcastle may therefore see an opportunity to strike early before rival clubs formally enter the race. The defender's profile appears to fit exactly what Newcastle are searching for. Primarily a centre-back, Vieri is also capable of operating at left-back, offering the kind of versatility Eddie Howe values highly within his defensive structure. At 21, he would also align with the club's broader strategy of lowering the squad's average age while investing in players with significant long-term potential. Newcastle's growing scouting presence in South America has already led to several promising links in recent windows, and the club are believed to have tracked Vieri extensively before making this apparent move. Still, there is some caution surrounding the reports. Lee Ryder has since suggested Newcastle have not submitted any formal proposal for Vieri in recent days, indicating negotiations may not yet be as advanced as initially claimed. That contradiction leaves some uncertainty around the exact stage of talks. Even so, the continued links strongly suggest Newcastle's interest is genuine. Vieri's rapid rise in Brazil has clearly caught attention across Europe, and Newcastle appear keen to position themselves early if an opportunity develops. Supporters should probably temper expectations regarding any immediate impact if a deal does happen. Breaking into Gremio's first team is impressive, but adapting directly to the pace and intensity of Premier League football would represent a huge leap for such a young defender. However, as a long-term investment with high upside, Vieri looks exactly the type of emerging talent Newcastle are increasingly targeting under their evolving recruitment model. Then, in other Newcastle United news, Newcastle United are expected to face sanctions from UEFA after breaching the governing body's squad cost ratio regulations during this season's Champions League campaign. The Magpies reached the round of 16 in Europe before their elimination, but participation in UEFA competition has now brought financial scrutiny alongside the sporting success. Under UEFA's financial sustainability regulations, clubs competing in European competitions are required to keep squad-related spending within strict limits. The squad cost ratio rule states that clubs cannot spend more than 70% of their total revenue on player wages, transfer amortization, and agent fees combined. According to reports, Newcastle exceeded that threshold during the campaign and have been in discussions with UEFA for several months regarding the breach. Last season, Aston Villa were punished under the same regulations, receiving a fine worth around £9.5 million alongside restrictions impacting their transfer activity. Newcastle are now expected to receive a similar punishment, although reports from the I paper suggest the sanctions may be less severe than those handed to Villa. The club reportedly believes it has presented a strong case during negotiations with UEFA, potentially helping reduce the financial penalty and soften any sporting restrictions. Even so, Newcastle are unlikely to escape entirely without consequences. Interestingly, any transfer-related limitations imposed by UEFA could still affect Newcastle despite the club failing to qualify for Europe next season. That may seem unusual at first glance, but it would still influence Newcastle's long-term squad planning given the club's aim of returning to European competition as quickly as possible. From a strategic perspective, Newcastle cannot afford to build a squad operating right at the limit of Premier League financial rules, only to face further compliance problems if they qualify for Europe again next season. As a result, significant player sales now appear increasingly likely this summer. Anthony Gordon already looks the most probable major departure. The England winger continues to attract strong interest from Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and several Premier League clubs, with Newcastle believed to value him at around £75 to £80 million. A sale of that size would go a long way toward easing financial pressure and bringing the club back within UEFA's limits. Meanwhile, Joe Willock is another player increasingly linked with an exit. Crystal Palace have reportedly shown interest in the midfielder, and Newcastle could potentially raise around £20 million from his sale. Combined, the departures of Gordon and Willock could generate close to £100 million in transfer income, money that would significantly improve Newcastle's financial position ahead of another crucial rebuild under Eddie Howe. Importantly, such sales could also create room for new signings without immediately placing the club back under pressure from financial regulations. For Newcastle supporters, the situation highlights the difficult balancing act modern clubs now face between competing aggressively on the pitch and remaining compliant financially. The coming weeks should bring greater clarity once UEFA formally announce their decision, but current indications suggest Newcastle may avoid the harsher punishments imposed on Aston Villa last year. And then finally, in a huge development, if you would like to know the exciting agreed deal Newcastle has just announced, click the video link on screen now.